above all, I hope it's going to be extremely impactful. I'm actually very confident that's what's going to happen. So we have a packed, time-sensitive agenda. So I'm not going to say much more, apart from introducing Mrs. Shelley Gay Gordon Carruthers, who is the project assistant at the Heart Foundation Jamaica, who will lead us in our opening prayer. Mrs. Gordon Carruthers.
Good morning, everyone. Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Mighty God, we thank you for this morning and this opportunity to meet together to launch this project. We ask, mighty God, that it will be a success, not only the launch, but with the implementation of policy so that we can have a change in our nation for the better. We pray for all those who will be involved and participate in the morning's activities, and ask that you guide us and protect us, and that the ears will be open and the eyes will see their Heavenly Father, the good that this campaign can do. Be with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon Carruthers. Now let's move on to the next person on the agenda, and it's my privilege to welcome for the opening remarks Mrs. Deborah Chen, who is the Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. Mrs. Chen.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Good morning, everybody, and special welcome to those who are joining us on the various social media platforms. We are here today to launch our Right to Know Jamaica campaign, which seeks to build awareness about the harms of unhealthy food, as well as build support for the introduction of front-of-package warning labels. Jamaica is facing an epidemic of non-communicable disease. 78% of all deaths, nearly 4 in 5 in Jamaica, are caused by NCDs. Heart disease causes 30% of deaths in Jamaica, diabetes 12%, and cancer 20%. There is sufficient evidence that being overweight or obese, consuming foods high in salt, unhealthy fats, and added sugar increase the risk of certain NCDs, including hypertension, obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart diseases, and cancer. Overweight and obesity are now dramatically on the rise in Jamaica. 1 in 2 Jamaicans, 54%, are overweight or obese. More concerning is that between 2010 and 17, obesity among Jamaican children, 13 to 15, increased by 68%. NCDs are the leading cause of death and disability in Jamaica and continue to place a burden on our health system, our economy, and individuals and family. We have to halt and increase these and reverse these worrying trends. To improve diet and health, leading organizations like the World Health Organization recommend reduction in the consumption of energy-dense, micronutrient-poor foods as a critical measure to tackle the growing obesity epidemic. Consumers would like to make healthier choices, but they need help in doing so. With the proliferation of ultra-processed foods, many of which have high levels of added sugar, sodium, saturated fats, and refined carbohydrates, no current mandatory nutrition label, and nutrition labels that are very difficult to interpret, Jamaican consumers are left at a disadvantage without the tools needed to make informed choices about the foods they purchase for themselves and their families. Research has shown that simple front-of-package warning labels that identify unhealthy products have been shown to be the most effective in discouraging unhealthy food choices. Consumers should be able to tell by quickly looking at a label which products are high in salt, fat, and sugar. Our campaign is built around the assertion that we all have the right to know what's in our food. Consumers have the right to information and a right to safe, nutritious food. Rights which have all been reiterated at the highest levels of the United Nations. A recent public opinion poll showed that 92% of Jamaicans support front-of-pack labels on food and drinks as part of the government's plan to promote a healthier diet in Jamaica. The Heart Foundation, along with leading health organizations including the World Health Organization, the Pan American Health Organization, UNICEF, FAO, NCD Alliance, the American Heart, and the Healthy Caribbean Coalition advocate for the implementation of front-of-pack labels to tackle the global NCD epidemic and the obesity. We want to thank the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Pan American Health, CARE at the University of the West Indies, the Pediatric Association, and the National Consumers League for lending their support by co-branding this campaign. Our goal is to provide a supportive environment for consumers to make healthier choices and improving dietary patterns with the long-term goals of halting the rise of obesity and NCDs, reducing the associated health burden, and encouraging a more healthy and resilient population. The time for front-of-pack labels is now, especially as data has shown that 90% of persons who have died from COVID-19 have one or more comorbidities or risk factors. Our main campaign message is simple. We have the right to know what's in our food. As Jamaicans, we need to continue to call for a food labeling warning system that allows us to quickly identify what is in our food so that we can make healthy choices. Let us follow the examples of countries that have taken the steps to implement front-of-pack labels to protect the health of their population.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chen. Now it's my pleasure to welcome via Zoom to give our first set of greetings, Dr. Bernadette Theodore Gandhi, who is the Paho World Health Organization representative to Jamaica, Bermuda, and the Cayman Islands. So again, let us please welcome Dr. Theodore Gandhi with her greetings. Dr. Theodore Gandhi.
Good morning. Master of Ceremonies, Dr. Kwesi Marshall, Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Andreen Chung, Chairperson, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Mrs. Deborah Chen, Executive Director, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Dr. Carolyn Pinnock, Pediatric Association of Jamaica, Mr. Trevor Samuels, National Consumers Lead, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased to bring greetings from Paho's Director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, and Dr. Tedros, Director General of the World Health Organization. Paho is pleased to be a partner in this media campaign on front of package labeling in Jamaica with the theme, The Right to Know. Non-communicable diseases are the leading cause of mortality, morbidity, and disability in the countries of the Caribbean. The latest Jamaica Health and Lifestyle Survey showed that NCDs were the leading cause of death and disability, and accounted for 3 out of every 4 deaths. 1 in every 2 adults in Jamaica were overweight or obese. The picture is similar across many Caribbean countries. The NCD risk factors of high blood pressure, high blood sugar levels, and overweight and obesity are responsible for all deaths, 47%, in the Caribbean. Making the situation even more dire at this time is the fact that people with underlying health conditions, including NCDs, have a higher risk of severe COVID-19 disease and are more likely to die from COVID-19. Research carried out has shown that being obese increases the risk for becoming severely ill from COVID-19 by 7 times. People with diabetes were up to 3 times more likely to have severe symptoms or die from COVID-19. Having hypertension, cardiovascular, and cerebrovascular disease increased the odds for severe COVID-19 by 2.3, 2.9, and 3.9 times respectively. And being hypertensive increased the risk of mortality from COVID-19 by 3.5 times. We cannot continue to ignore the problem of NCDs, especially now. Years of life are being lost among populations because of people dying prematurely or living without being able to work, play, or enjoy their lives at its best potential. This loss impacts not only health, but also the human and socioeconomic development of countries, as it negatively impacts education attainment and labor productivity. Unhealthy eating is a major contributor to the problem of NCDs. There is widespread availability of processed and ultra-processed products, and an excessive intake of the critical nutrients, free sugars, total fats, saturated fats, trans fats, and sodium. An essential part of the solution to this problem must therefore be the creation of enabling environments, including the use of regulations to reduce the imbalance in the diet caused by intake of processed and ultra-processed products. One of the key policy tools to regulate such products is the use of front-of-package labeling to indicate to consumers which products are high in sugar, sodium, and in total saturated and trans fats. It is in this context that Paho is urging support for the proposal by the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, CROSS-Q, for the inclusion of warning symbols of food products to help people make healthier dietary choices. These nutritional warnings have undergone rigorous scientific evaluation, including in the local context, and have been found to be the best performing system in correctly, quickly, and easily identifying products that contain excessive amounts of fats, sugars, and sodium. The Paho nutrient profile model, which is designed to meet the World Health Organization goals for the nutrients of concern, is being used to define the application of the standard to foods. The health of the region's population must be placed first. Even so, front-of-package labeling is not expected to have a negative impact on the economies of countries which implement it. On the contrary, it creates opportunities for the development and expansion of businesses which offer foods recommended as part of a healthy diet, as consumer behavior and product demands change. It has been projected that the use of octagonal warning will reduce obesity by 14.7% in Mexico after 5 years of implementation, and save the country an estimated $1.8 billion in obesity costs. Furthermore, front-of-package warning labels do not create a barrier to free trade. They represent a necessary public health measure and will be expected to be applied both domestically and internationally. In July 2020, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Health released a statement on the adoption of front-of-package warning labeling to tackle NCDs, which was endorsed by the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food and the UN Working Group on the issue of human rights and transnational corporations and other business enterprises. The statement identified front-of-package warning labeling as rights compliant and a key component of a comprehensive strategy to promote healthier lives. The UN Special Rapporteur commended states' efforts to adopt front-of-package warning labeling to foster healthier lives, while expressing grave concern about food and beverage industries' tactics to hamper these efforts. Promoting healthy diets to maintain nutritional well-being has become more important than ever in the COVID-19 pandemic. We hope that this media campaign which Paho is a part of, will help to build consumer awareness for healthier products and help to defend the right of the population to health. Thank you.
Theodore Gandhi. Before I move on, I'm going to ask Dr. Jackson.
Is pleased and honored to be a part of the launch of this campaign by the Heart Foundation, Frontal Package Right to Know JA. We all know the burden of non-communicable diseases on our healthcare system and our own personal wellness. And many of the habits that lead to this are actually a part of our culture. I applaud the Heart Foundation of Jamaica in its efforts that are both consistent and unwavering to educate Jamaican public and eliminate those unhealthy part of our culture that lead us to live unhealthy older lives. As an association that works almost exclusively with children, we fully support education and information as even the little ones can learn to read and understand what it is that they are eating. Once again, we want to thank the Heart Foundation for their consistent effort, and we wish you all the best with this campaign, knowing that your success will be the success of tomorrow's Jamaica. Thank you.
The feed. Now let me welcome our next presenter to give greetings for this launch. And that person is Mr. Trevor Samuels, who's the acting public relations officer at the National Consumers League of Jamaica.
Consumer International, of which the NCL, the National Consumer League, is a member, has long been concerned about the health of its consumers, and a significant aspect of the eight consumer rights deliberately emphasize the health aspects of the consumer, recognizing that the wealth and productivity of any country depend on the health of all its individuals. The importance of health has been the main theme of many of its world conventions, such as the Australia Convention of 2007 and the Brazil Convention of 2015. Most of the discussions at these conventions focus on non-communicable or lifestyle diseases, especially obesity, which is a major problem of modern life. This is very obvious as we move around our beautiful island of Jamaica, seeing many seemingly obese people, which no doubt is connected to the high rate of hypertension, diabetes, heart, liver, and other problems common to the island. Much of this stems from our high consumption of sugar, starches, salt, processed foods, and trans fats, which form a significant part of our modern diet. The problem is that we do not necessarily consume these foods directly, and a reasonable amount of this is fine and adds to the taste of our foods. But we may not realize that when we add commercially prepared foods, such as soft drinks, salted snacks, these may significantly increase and will exceed daily safe limits, which eventually can lead to health conditions mentioned earlier. Our children who develop the taste for these foods are likely to become obese, which makes them prone to the diseases. This can have a very serious impact on their lifestyles later in life. Do not be fooled by what you see on packaging saying that there is no sugar or salt or cholesterol added, because these substitutes may be just as bad. Heart Foundation has always been concerned about non-communicable diseases and has long encouraged persons to be careful with what they consume. Since food is essential, we need to know what we put into our bodies. Therefore, it is important to know the content of packaged foods so we can exercise our right as consumers when we purchase. We therefore commend the Heart Foundation for their foresight and concern about how packaged contents are labeled and encourage consumers to read labels carefully before they decide to buy and consume. Many times, the most important information lies hidden in fine print somewhere on the package, if at all. We therefore support the Heart Foundation in its drive to get manufacturers to institute front-of packaging labeling in bold print so consumers can be in better position to make wiser choices. The National Consumers League therefore is happy that the foundation has invited them to join in support of this effort. As the saying goes, unity is strength. We at the Consumers League extend our heartiest congratulations to our Beechwood Avenue neighbors for this splendid effort, and hoping that in time, Jamaica will become a healthier and more productive country.
Thank you, Mr. Samuels. Thank you, Mr. Samuels. I know we've been having some problems with our audio, and I can see that our audiovisual team is working assiduously to rectify that. So I'm hoping that's going to be sorted out very, very soon. Now we come to a particularly interesting part of this morning's activities, because we now are going to be greeted with a special video presentation. And when something is referred to as being special, I think we have a lot to expect. So can we please see that?
The ox cause the funny. It's a head while you're more than money. If no fun, healthy things in on the bag. Put a warning on the front label, not the back. Enough sugar where you add. Dip on the front label. Enough salt where you add. Dip on the front label. Only more fats where you add. Dip on the front label. We don't want search for the facts. We want the warning on the front of the pack. We don't want a heart attack. We want to stay on track. Put it on the front label, not the back.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Ministry of Health and Wellness, and partners.
The ox cause the funny. It's a head while you're more than money. If no fun, healthy things in on the bag. Put a warning on the front label, not the back. Enough sugar where you add. Dip on the front label. Enough salt where you add. Dip on the front label. Only more fats where you add. Dip on the front label. We don't want search for the facts. We want the warning on the front of the pack. We don't want a heart attack. We want to stay on track. Put it on the front label, not the back.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Ministry of Health and Wellness, and partners.
The ox cause the funny. It's a head while you're more than money. If no fun, healthy things in on the bag. Put a warning on the front label, not the back. Enough sugar where you add. Dip on the front label. Enough salt where you add. Dip on the front label. Only more fats where you add. Dip on the front label. We don't want search for the facts. We want the warning on the front of the pack. We don't want a heart attack. We want to stay on track. Put it on the front label, not the back.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, Ministry of Health and Wellness, and partners.
Okay, everyone, I think that was so good. We got it not once, not twice, but 3 times. So I think we can expect to see it quite a few more times in the future. It's a fantastic advertisement, and I think it's the sort of thing that we need to be as impactful as we possibly can. Again, themes, informative, interesting, and impactful. Now, let me move to one of the centerpieces of this morning's activities, and it's my special honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this morning. And that keynote speaker is Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, MP, the Minister of Health and Wellness, Jamaica. Dr. Tufton.
Dr. Bernadette Theodore Gandhi, Paho WHO representative to Jamaica, Bermuda, and the Cayman Islands. Mrs. Deborah Chen, Executive Director of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica. Dr. Crazy Marshall, Chair of the National Food Industry Task Force. Other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, all, good day. You know, it has been said that the secret to getting ahead is getting started. This morning, we're getting started on the Right to Know campaign that supports the push to get ahead of the epidemic of non-communicable diseases, or NCDs. 1 in 3 Jamaicans are living with hypertension. 1 in 8 living with diabetes. Only 4 of 10 are aware of their status. The need to spotlight the harm associated with consumption of foods high in salt and sugar and fat or trans fat is therefore essential, since they are the fuel that help to fire the case numbers of persons young and old living with and dying from an NCD. Add to that the vulnerability of people with NCDs to adverse outcomes from COVID-19, and we see that this campaign at this time is mission critical. The campaign also champions front-of-package warning labels as an effective way to reach people with information that helps to guide their choice of what to eat, and at a time when we are faced with a ballooning consumption of harmful, ultra-processed foods. In this way, the Right to Know aligns well with the work of the Ministry of Health and Wellness for the prevention and care and management of NCDs. This work includes the prioritization of the progress of food labeling as seen in the efforts of the ministry's National Food Industry Task Force. Specific goals of that work include making progress on the front of package labeling using the high-in format, which graphically indicates if a product contains high levels of nutrients such as sugar, sodium, or salt, and or fats. This comes as Ministries of Health and National Bureau of Standards, together with other stakeholders from within the Caribbean community, engage in ongoing consultations to gather feedback for the revision of the 2010 CARICOM Regional Standard for specification for labeling of prepackaged foods, and a separate standard for nutritional labeling. Data gathered on high-end labeling has shown that this labeling method is not only easily identifiable, but also readily understood by consumers and is instructive for their decision-making about what products are least harmful to their health. Here in Jamaica, the Health Ministry, along with the University of Technology and the Pan American Health Organization, have conducted a randomized control trial to examine the best performing front of package label options. The results of that study, which contributes to the evidence accumulated across the region of the Americas, are to be made available to the public in short order. The nature of the NCD challenge is also such that we are not stopping with a look at front of package labeling. 1 in 2 Jamaicans, including children and teens, is overweight or obese, fueled by the increased consumption of sweetened beverages, but also limited fruit, vegetables, and water intake, and low levels of physical activity. The 2017 School Health Survey tells us that some 24% of students were overweight and 9% were obese, with 20% spending more than 8 hours per day sitting, 68% drinking carbonated drinks 1 or more times per day, while more than half ate fast food on 1 or more days per week. In short, adults are not only concerned when it comes to the scourge of NCDs, our children are a significant concern also. It is against this background that the look at front of package labeling by the ministry is being complemented by a look at nutritional labeling, and why the ongoing work of the Food Industry Task Force extends to addressing product reformulation, food marketing, advocacy, and communication. This is with the objectives to reduce children's exposure to unhealthy food advertising, reduce portion size of energy-dense foods and products, and improve the quality of food sold by food outlets and vendors. This is also while they peel back the layers on the dangers of unhealthy eating, look at the incentives and disincentives of fiscal policy initiatives, as well as seek to provide support for food manufacturers and vendors in using healthier ingredients. We have seen progress on interventions to slow the NCD train. They include the development of the interim guidelines for beverages in schools, approved by Cabinet in 2018, against the background of the evidence which shows that the link between the consumption of sweetened beverages and childhood obesity are real. We have also developed the capacity in Jamaica to test for sugars, salt, total fat, saturated fat, and trans fat, courtesy of upgraded lab equipment and training done with the Bureau of Standards and the Scientific Research Council. We're also involved with the LIFE project of the Caribbean Institute for Health Research, with its investigation into the role of genetic, lifestyle, social, and environmental factors in NCDs in Jamaica, and the use of a cohort studies approach and multi-stakeholder collaboration to achieve its intended result. We are also undertaking collaborative research in the areas of NCDs, also with CAIHR. Together, we are pursuing the $13 million SALT study, in addition to a look at sugar, with the support of our agency, the National Health Fund. Ladies and gentlemen, our efforts are indicative of just how seriously we take the NCDs epidemic and our commitment to safeguarding the health and wellness of the Jamaica people. The Right to Know campaign of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica has my full endorsement, and I urge the people of Jamaica to themselves embrace it and what it means for their empowered decision-making about what to eat, given the implications for their health, that of their families and their communities. I commend the team at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica for their continued good work and wish this campaign every success. In our collective health interests, let's beat NCDs. I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Minister Tufton, for your very clear articulation of the Ministry of Health and Wellness's commitment to robust labeling standards, as well as improvements in the food and nutrition landscape in Jamaica. Thank you very much. Now, one pleasure is followed by another pleasure. So it's now my pleasure again to introduce our next presenter, and that is Miss Vanetta Nurse, who's the Advocacy Officer at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, who is going to give us what's sure to be a fabulous overview of the Right to Know campaign. Miss Nurse.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be here to present our Right to Know campaign overview. Okay. Our campaign has been developed against the background of some of the evidence that you have heard from our previous speakers. So we were having a little bit of technical difficulties with the presentation, but we should get that going in a little bit. Okay, great, we're good now. Okay, so you would have heard that 80% of all deaths in Jamaica are caused by non-communicable diseases. Heart disease causes 30% of deaths, and diabetes causes 12% of deaths. 54% of Jamaicans are classified as overweight and obese. The scourge of non-communicable diseases has
also left the population vulnerable, as certain persons with underlying conditions are more susceptible to or have a higher risk of serious illness or death from COVID-19. Our diets have been predominated by ultra-processed and processed prepackaged foods, many of which have high levels of salt, saturated fat, and added sugars. Excess sodium intake is also associated with an increased blood pressure, as well as the risk of cardiovascular disease, stroke, and death. Consuming excess sugar from both beverages and foods increases the risk of developing non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, kidney damage, heart disease, and certain types of cancer. We have launched 5 health-related campaigns in Jamaica between 2017 and 2019. And each time we launch a campaign, we do a post-campaign evaluation to determine the effectiveness, recall of the campaign, as well as to improve on any campaign we do in the future. Our last post-campaign evaluation conducted in August 2019 showed high levels of support for front-of-package labeling, as well as other health food policies, and this is public support. 55% of Jamaicans strongly agree that it takes too much time to interpret the nutrition facts panel. 92% strongly support front-of-package warning labels on foods and drinks. 82% strongly agree on policy requiring clear warning labels on the front of our foods and beverages that warn when they are high in salt, fat, and sugar. And 87% strongly agree that they would support government efforts to increase children's access to healthy foods and drinks. We launched phase 1 of the front-of-package labeling campaign in August 2019, and it was really geared towards agenda setting to create an awareness of health harms and risks of foods high in salt, fat, and sugar to get the conversation going. Encourage consumers to pay attention to what we're eating, what we're drinking, the content of our packaged foods. With phase 2, we seek to amplify this message, increase awareness of health harms and the risks of foods high in salt, fat, and sugar, again encourage consumers to pay attention, and then to encourage and support the collective whole of society responsibility to help protect the health of the population, especially our children. And of course, highlight and amplify the need for front-of-package warning labels. These are some examples of our first phase of the FOPL campaign, and the message was clear. Do we know what we're eating? We need full information on our food labels. We have the right to know what's in our food, and give us the facts. As you would have heard, nutrition labeling is a powerful public health tool to change dietary practices. However, in Jamaica, it's not mandatory or standardized, and sometimes difficult to understand. Simple, clear front-of-package warning provides the consumers with that tool to make healthier choices. Our Right to Know campaign is a natural progression from our initial discussions and our initial campaigns as it relates to the harms of sugary drinks. We are now focusing on the health harms of all foods high in salt, saturated fat, and sugar. We're focusing on these health harms, as well as highlighting the need for public support and government support for policies to reduce obesities and NCDs. Our current campaign, Right to Know, also has some clear messages. Again, foods high in salt, fat, and sugar increase the risk of NCDs. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages. We have the right to know, you have the right to know, I have the right to know. We all are consumers and have the right to know what's in our food. We will now reveal our Right to Know campaign advertisement. Thank you.
Today we're going to be making breakfast and preparing a lunchbox for school. Let's start with some sugar and salt, and wash it down with a nice big glass of more sugar. And now for the lunchbox. Let's put in saturated fat, more salt, and sugar. Foods high in salt, fats, and sugar increase the risk of hypertension, obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now more than ever, we have the right to know what's in our food. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages. Today we're going to be making breakfast and preparing a lunchbox for school. Let's start with some sugar and salt, and wash it down with a nice big glass of more sugar. And now for the lunchbox. Let's put in saturated fat, more salt, and sugar. Foods high in salt, fats, and sugar increase the risk of hypertension, obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now more than ever, we have the right to know what's in our food. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages. Today we're going to be making breakfast and preparing.
Okay, thank you very much again. That was an excellent presentation. And I also want to thank Vanetta for her really clear overview of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica's impact on the food and nutrition landscape in Jamaica. Now we're going to end this segment. We have a question and answer segment to end off completely. We're going to end this segment now with a vote of thanks to be given by Mrs. K. Marish Cook, the Communication Officer for the Heart Foundation of Jamaica.
Honorable Mr. Christopher Tufton, Mrs. Deborah Chen, Dr. Bernadette Theodore Gandhi, Dr. Carolyn Jackson, Mr. Trevor Samuels, our chairman, Dr. Kwesi Marshall, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and the Global Health Advocacy Project, our stakeholders, partners, and well-wishers, I would like to extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all speakers for being here with us today as we launch the next phase of our mass media campaign, The Right to Know. As we advocate for the right of consumers to know what they are consuming and necessary information needed more so than ever in these trying times. Minister, we are indeed grateful for once again having the ministry co-branding on this campaign. Your words of support and the positive actions being taken by the ministry in combating the rise of NCDs in the country, and we look forward to our continued partnership in this regard. A special thanks to the organizations co-branding with us in this effort: Paho, Caribbean Institute of Health Research, the Pediatric Association of Jamaica, and the National Consumers League of Jamaica. Your added voices will go a long way in getting our message out and understood by our people. I would also like to take this opportunity to place on record our heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Deborah Chen and the Heart Foundation of Jamaica for their continued leadership in educating and advocating for policies geared towards the reduction of NCDs in the country, as well as providing information and screening opportunities to Jamaicans, enabling them to live and maintain healthy lifestyles. To our chairman, Dr. Marshall, a big thank you for navigating the challenges of virtual communications, never missing a beat and ensuring everything flowed. Sir, you acquitted yourself most admirably, and thank you once again for a job well done. Ladies and gentlemen, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling months ago. It required planning and a bird-eye view for detail. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues, especially Donnell, Patrick, Janet, Susan, the two Michaels, and at last but not least, our own GHAP team. Well done, guys. Finally, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to state that we are grateful to all speakers, not only for their words of support, but for their organizations backing up this campaign. We thank you for our virtual audience, for being with us this morning. It's been a great pleasure, and as we go, please remember, stay socially distanced, wash your hands, and wear your mask. Stay safe, everyone. walk good, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Morris Cook. So, thank you on my behalf as the chairman of the National Food Industry Task Force for what has been a fabulous morning of activities so far. But I think we now have a great opportunity to make this session even better by welcoming questions in the chat. So we have a raft of experts who are available to provide answers to your questions. So for all of you who are participating virtually, I ask each of you, if you have any questions that you want to express to, please drop a message in the chat. And in the meantime, let me again express how thankful I am and how honored I am to be available to present. Okay, so one of the questions I see is, will the campaign address alternative options? So I'm not so sure exactly what that means. So I have somebody here who can, and that's Ms. Pike. So she's here available to do that.
Okay, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As it relates to that question that was posted by Ms. Holdip in the chat, will the campaign address alternative options? So yes, the health education component as well as advocacy activities will cover that. So this is where we incorporate parent-teacher educational sessions in the educational setting going into the schools. So where we incorporate health education materials along with practical activities to teach persons, not just in the educational background, but corporate activities as well on how to swap out this component we call healthy swaps, on how you can actually find healthier alternatives to foods that are high in unhealthy fats with healthier fats, high in salt or sodium, or high in sugar with alternatives that can replace these.
Thank you, Ms. Pike. Any other questions? Maybe if I can just elaborate on what Ms. Pike said. So, I mean, when we talk about alternative options, as the task force chairman, we have a variety of complementary measures that we promote, and the minister clearly articulated those. So he's talking about product reformulation, he's talking about the messages in advertising and marketing that are conveyed to the public, as well as obviously information conveyed via front of package labeling. So it's a variety of complementary measures: communication, yes; information, yes; education, product reformulation, front of package labeling, regulations on advertising and marketing, and if necessary, legislation. I saw something, but I think my eyesight's good. It's not that good. Okay. The messages soon seem targeted at consumers. Will the campaign help consumers to advocate for the placement of warnings on the front of packaging? How will the manufacturers of products be targeted? I think, again, we've got experts aplenty here, but let me start first off with Ms. Nurse.
Thank you for that question. The campaign is geared towards consumers, but we also try to get, the aim is for consumers to start advocating for their rights to know and their rights to front of package labeling. We're working with the National Consumers League, especially in that aspect, to try to get a little bit more advocacy, get persons to become more vocal, because in the end, it is actually a movement that we're trying to build to get to a healthier Jamaica. In terms of the manufacturers, I will actually pass that question on to Dr. Marshall, because in essence, every aspect of society has a responsibility as it relates to protecting health. The government, the NGOs, consumers, consumer groups, parents, everyone has a part to play, including manufacturers, and they have been engaged in certain aspects as it relates to participating in the development process for the front of package labeling standard, as well as at the Food Industry Task Force. So I will pass the particular question on to Dr. Kwesi Marshall to elaborate a little bit about that.
Thank you, Ms. Nurse. So, as it pertains to the manufacturers of these products, so the name of the organization I chair is the National Food Industry Task Force. So one of its express aims was to engage the food and beverage industry at all points as we progressed towards a healthier food and nutrition landscape in Jamaica. Now, the manufacturers have been engaged, as I said, at all stages, and as I'm sure some of you will have seen at least, there will be differences of opinion as to how we move forward. From my perspective, though, I think it's clear that we have to move forward, and we have to move forward rapidly and robustly. That does not mean browbeating people, but it does mean that there's an awareness that we have no time to waste. You will see increasing news about the health crises in Jamaica and the broader Caribbean, so the crisis of non-communicable diseases. And we know clearly that what we have in our food and our drinks will have an impact on our health. So the manufacturers have as much of a stake in that as everybody else, because we all have to be concerned about our individual health as well as our public health. So I don't think that in terms of the manufacturers and being targeted, manufacturers are being engaged, and with varying levels of agreement and cooperation, I think we are moving forward. I will add, though, that for this particular launch, we as health advocates, we as health advisors will always think about the health of the nation, the health of individuals first. Manufacturers will often talk about trade implications, talk about sales elsewhere, and that's their prerogative. But from the perspective of people who are involved in health promotion and health protection, our paramount interest is protecting health and promoting good health. And we do that through promoting a healthier food and nutrition and dietary landscape in Jamaica, as is being presented this morning by this fabulous set of presentations. So I think this is where, at least for now, we will say our farewells, not goodbye. I thank each of you for participating, whether it's physically here at the site or virtually. Again, I reiterate the call for improving the health of the nation through knowing what is in our food and having a right to know. So again, I applaud the work of all of the people at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, as well as their partners, and I look forward to our progress toward a much healthier food and nutrition landscape in Jamaica. But for now, Thank you for listening. Please stay safe and goodbye.
Box for school. Let's start with some sugar and salt. And wash it down with a nice big glass of more sugar. And now for the lunch box. Let's put in saturated fat, more salt, and sugar. Foods high in salt, fats, and sugar increase the risk of hypertension, obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now more than ever, we have the right to know what's in our food. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages. Today we're going to be making breakfast and preparing a lunch box for school. Let's start with some sugar and salt. And wash it down with a nice big glass of more sugar. And now for the lunch box. Let's put in saturated fat, more salt, and sugar. Foods high in salt, fats, and sugar increase the risk of hypertension, obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now more than ever, we have the right to know what's in our food. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages.